did that journey begun? That kind of lifestyle change, if you will.
Okay, it was kind of a slow start, really, because I wanted the traditional template life, the house, family, career, and I was working towards that. And this was in the 90s, going back to the 90s, and things were going okay. Pretty hard work, the 9 to 5 life, though. So I had my life planned out pretty much, to retirement. And one day, my wife said she didn't want to do it anymore. She wanted to leave me. She'd found somebody else. So that was the end of my dream then. And I had no plan B or anything. So for the sake of the kids, I gave her the house, and the kids still went to school and things like that. So from then on, I just had the career. So I was just like treading water for a long time, earning money, paying the alimony, child support and things, until the late 2000s with the credit crunch. And then the one thing I had left, which was my job, that went as well, So I had no plan, and I still didn't have a replacement for the vision for the future that I had for myself either back then. So the daily task was fending off the debt collectors and the bank and things like that. And eventually, cut a long story short, I lost my house as well. So eventually I lost the family, lost the job, and I lost the home. The contents I'd lost to some tenants I'd rented out to, trying to save the home. They left and they emptied the place, so they took that as well.
No, man.
So eventually I was getting all this minimalism, which was what I was interested in anyway. But I never had the guts to actually let stuff go, because I'm very sentimental to things that I bought along the way. So eventually it got pared down, and then it was a case that day to day it was just debt collectors, phone calls and things like that. So so I was like an IT techie earning good money with a family and stuff, and eventually unemployed, virtually vagabond, But my father lived in the US, and come to one of the winters, I thought I'd go there, get a bit of headspace, enjoy a bit of warm weather, and spend some time with my dad. It seemed like that point was where things turned around, because I got a bit of compensation through a pension deal that was illegal, so I got some compensation. And I went to the US with probably about $40,000, and that was my net worth, Backpack, money in the bank, back to my dad, And then after a couple of weeks, my dad's still no plan for the future. Scrolling on Facebook, I saw a sailboat for sale in the Caribbean, St. Martin. And I'd heard about St. Martin. I got a contact that lived out there. So I knew it was French territory. Turns out it was European territory for the French side. So potentially I could move there away from the debt collectors and everything, start a new life without having any visa or anything, because it was
right
at that time in UK.
Seemed like the right place to restart the whole thing.
Yeah, so it's like a potential, So I didn't have to worry about getting residency or anything. And then I was looking at the spec of the boat. It had a dinghy, solar, wind, radio. It was basically a whole new life for one flat price of about $10,000. And I had that. So that moment, I saw, well, not that moment, I spent about 5 minutes. So click, I'll make an offer, I'll buy.
Right.
I hadn't even seen it. And I know through sailing, you're supposed to do hull surveys and all sorts of things, because it would be an expensive project if you bought the wrong base, But I didn't really see the sailing, really. Well, part of me did, but I just saw a whole new base in a new, paradise, basically.
Sure. But you had like sailing experience or anything to do with boats prior to buying the boat, or?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I had this idea to sail the Atlantic sometime, so I did a sailing course in Gibraltar the year before. And the idea was to sail across the Atlantic and spend some time with my dad, and then maybe sail back or fly back. And that's as far as it went, you know. And I wanted the confidence to be at sea and know what things were called and what to pull when they were pulled, you know. And that was as far as it went. But having that in my back pocket and seeing this roll up, you know, and having all this stuff taken away and losing the family, it was just the right moment to say, yeah, this is
it.
it'd be a good decision. I've got nothing to lose. I could live in the Caribbean. Let's give it a go. And it's only $10,000, which is, you know, less than a year's rent in the UK.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. So it's like an experiment. Just packed up my rucksack, said goodbye to my dad, said, sorry, I'm leaving a month early, but, you know, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
Come and see me. And then took off. Actually arrived in the dark in St. Martin, saw the owner. All the money transaction was done anyway. Handed over the key. She cleared off, and then the next morning I woke up in a boat, sort of looking around, so what's going on, you know. Maybe about a year, and it started to become boring because there wasn't much else to do apart from that. I'd already hiked the mountains and things, and the island itself is only about 9 miles by 5, something like that, so a very small area. From the top, you can just see ocean all around and islands in the distance. So I was beginning to think, well, I'm not really getting on with the boat, getting it ready to sail very much. What's the future going to be like? What am I going to do? Maybe sell this one and get another one. But September 2017, Hurricane Irma came through and just bullseye straight on the island, just wiped the island out, basically.
Damn.
Maybe about 95% of the boats were wrecked.
All right.
Ones on the land as well as in the lagoon.
But how does that look like? Like, is it like waves carrying the boats out to shore and crashing them, or like how do they, or just they just sink, or?
It's a bit weird, really, sort of witnessing this thing.
Because you were there when it hit.
I was there, yeah.
Right,
Luckily, I'd gone ashore. The forecast was 100-mile-an-hour winds. It turned out it was 200-mile-an-hour.
Oh my God, yeah.
And there was an old guy on a catamaran. He decided just to put 3 anchors out and just ride it out. He got ripped off his anchors under a bridge, so he took his mast down, settled on the Dutch side, and the Coast Guard say, you're better off staying where you are, stay there. And then the other side of the hurricane came, took him back under the bridge and drove him up onto the French side of the land. So he was up there for a few days, you know, while the looters were out sort of robbing people. Yeah, he was okay. But I made the decision to go into a big concrete laundry with about 12 other people and sheltered there. So, yeah, we survived that. The water rose, so we were knee deep in the sea for a while, and then it went down. So it was okay. It could have been a lot worse. I think it was like 12 people died on the island or something.
Okay.
So
All right.
From then on, it was like a week with no contact, no internet, no phone or anything, and then evacuated back to the UK, you know. We went out looking for my boat and couldn't find it at all. It took about 4 months before it was discovered. And this was in a lagoon, you know, a 4-mile lagoon by about 2 miles, you know.
Wow. So it completely sank, like gone.
Completely sank, yeah. It had gone under the bridge, so it would have lost its mast anyway. And where it ended up, it just took water on and just sank. It was in the bottom of a marina. Right. A lot of other boats.
So if such a situation happens, usually the boats get wrecked, hopefully you survive, and then the looters come in and take the rest, or that's how it works. I don't know.
The looters are out looking for stuff before the winds dropped, you know.
Okay. Yeah. I understand now.
Right. So I had friends with, you know, big outboards on good dinghies that they're tied up in trees and things, you know. And we got there to rescue the equipment. We could already see the lines had been cut and wires and things ready for people to come in and then take the equipment away. So, yeah, it's like first to the equipment gets it sort of thing, you know.
Wow.
It's pretty lawless in those times, you know.
Right. Yeah, this was in, when was this?
2017.
2017.
Yeah, September. And being a remote island, you know, there's not really any support coming for a while from anywhere.
So you're pretty much on your own, I guess.
Yeah, it's a bit Mad Max-like it was.
Yeah. Like the Hunger Games, kind of, you know, when it comes to supplies.
Yeah.
But like how was it though? Like how did it feel? Because I mean, was it like a year ago that you bought the boat, more or less?
Yeah, it was about 18 months before.
Yeah. So you had this new home, and then suddenly even that's gone. It's
Yeah.
like like how do you, I don't know, like how do you just move on with life? You know, it's just
I
hard,
know.
hard.
What choice do you have then?
But yeah, I mean that I know that's
Yeah.
true. But yeah, like
Yeah.
how
In a way, sort of losing my original life with a wife and family, that already prepared me for losing the boat anyway, because it felt familiar. So it's
okay,
right, I've lost everything, done this before, So it's like, what
interesting.
now?
Yeah.
I took advantage of the free evacuation to Paris. So the French side got rescued first. They got evacuated back to Paris with free flights and things.
Hmm.
And then from there, I took a budget flight back to London. So I just had my old backpack that basically what I took out to my dad's originally 2 years before. So 2 years later, I come back,
Hmm.
with the same thing. Well, what to do? I don't really want to be in England.
Right.
Um, I had an old van that I was living in when I lost my house. So I'd sort of picked that up again, cleaned that out, and started living in that for about 3 weeks. Someone I met in the hurricane shelter gave me a call and just asked me, would I like to crew on a yacht from Turkey to Colombia? Why not, eh? I've
Well,
only got this.
yeah. I mean, you've been preparing for this,
Yeah,
the Atlantic crossing, and then
well, that's
I
right.
guess
Yeah,
like life just gave you the opportunity. Like, okay, Paul, do
yeah.
it. Go for it.
So
Yeah.
by then, I had the confidence of having lived on a boat and I know how things go. And
Mhm.
I've been sailing with people around the Caribbean in the meantime as well. So I was experienced by then as well. The guys on the crew, he'd already booked an ayahuasca retreat in Minca in Colombia.
Mhm.
So we arrived just in time for that for him. And I decided I'd go along as well. So both of us went to an ayahuasca retreat for 2 weeks. So
What was your reason of going? I don't know. I guess everybody has a reason.
well, the subject cropped up on the voyage.
Hmm.
The skipper had been on a few, and he said it saved his marriage, gave him a different outlook on life. So
Interesting.
one of the best things he's ever done.
Hmm.
And the crew member said, "Oh, funny you should mention that. I've got a session booked up when we get to Colombia."
Hmm.
So I was thinking, well, is this a sign from above?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I should go as
Ayahuasca.
well. If the subject's come up for these two people, I should go along and see what it's about. So I went. It was pretty good. It's not what I expected. You thought it'd be like an adventure in some sort of psychedelic world, but it wasn't quite like that.
Mm.
The colours changed and everything, and I got a different experience of my thoughts, like it was somebody else talking,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. It wasn't just me inside. Things were coming from outside. That's what it felt like.
But was it like you guys went to some like shaman in the forest and you did like a ritual thing, or like how does it look like? That kind of ceremony.
The guy who facilitated, he was in the mountains in Colombia, so it's a bit different to the Amazonian.
Mhm.
He got two shamans from central Colombia to come up that could speak English, and they ran the ceremony. They had like waving leaves and stuff and chanting and things. So it wasn't just take the drug and lay back.
Yeah,
It was a proper package.
okay.
And part of that was cleansing diet as well. So it was vegetarian the week leading up, and no alcohol, Cambo sessions to purge and things.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, because I've heard it's like a
Brutal.
multi-day like preparation for the
Yeah.
actual thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No alcohol. There must have been.
Yeah. I think it was at least a week cleansing, and then halfway through the second week, that's when the ceremonies were.
Mhm. Mhm.
When everyone was clean. Being in that environment as well, made some good contacts there, mainly younger people than me.
Right.
Yeah, really, really nice, open souls, really good to get to know.
So are you actually like a religious person or believer or?
Started off as an atheist.
Right. And then you went on this experience. That's
Yeah,
quite.
when after things fell apart, I think I started opening up to there's more at play to what I can see. And it's only really become apparent through taking off traveling, you know. I guess from clicking on this yacht for sale and everything lined up perfectly. But so many coincidences, you know, all at the same time, just to line up for me there. And then that trend has continued from then on, you know. It's either the longest lucky streak in history or there's something else going on. And I think it's, you know, I think it's more than we understand, you know.
Right.
I believe that now.
When did you start being like I guess convinced that that's the truth, or I don't know, in your experience? Because I mean, going from complete atheist, it must have been like a journey of transition based on these experiences. So like, like was there like one specific thing that happened that you were like, oh yeah, you know, maybe, or it was just
it's a collection of
gradual.
things. Yeah, gradual things. Like when I think back to when I was a kid, it was almost like I was moving around invisibly. You know, there'd be trouble going on. I'd pass through. There'd be sometimes when a school kid would come up and say, "You're wearing blue. You're a Chelsea fan." And someone would come up, "No, leave him. We've got to go and do this." So that happened about 3 times. You know. I felt, you know, a little bit protected at that point. There was another point where I'd returned from a sailing trip on the Caribbean. I was hitchhiking across the island to get back to my boat, and a guy stopped to give me a lift. So, all right, thanks. You know, got in the back, and then 100 meters down the road, he said, "Got any money?" So, well, I've only got East Caribbean pounds, you know, which are worthless. Really. And then as soon as I said that, car absolutely died, you know. We weren't going anywhere. So the guy had to get out, lift his hood up, attend to the engine. So I got up and said, "Oh, good luck with that, mate. I'm off." Never saw him again. I just walked back to the lagoon, you know. So I was on the verge of getting robbed. I thought, well, what a coincidence. He cuts out right at that moment, you know. So, I know it sounds crazy, but it just like feels like there's someone looking out for me somewhere. Yeah, moving through South America on the motorbike, which is like the next phase from Colombia.
Yeah, right.
It's been 8 years, no trouble really, apart from officials, you know. But everybody gets that, you know. The customs, immigration, and police trying to shake you down and things like that.
Of course.
But I've not had much of that either. Less than most people, you know.
Yeah, have you heard like other people that have been like traveling in those regions having more like, you know, getting into trouble? Or?
Not very much firsthand. There was a couple that I was staying with in a hostel in Cochabamba in Bolivia. There's a hill called Cristo de la Concordia, isn't it? It's got the big Jesus on the top. It's bigger than the Rio one. I went up there with my camera, taking pictures, you know. Walked back down in the dark. A couple behind me went up. They got robbed of iPhone, money, clothing. They came back and so reported it to the police. And there was me on my own.
Just absolutely fine.
Nothing at all, you know. Normally there's a cable car that goes up there, but this time it was down for maintenance, so everybody had to go up and down the stairs. So whoever was up there was waiting in the bushes, you know. I'm kind of like an Obi-Wan Kenobi on holiday.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the clip. The full length of the episode is available right here. So go on, check it out.